Welcome to English Plus Magazine, your source for insightful and engaging content on a wide range of topics. Whether you're interested in business, science, literature, education, history, psychology, or anything in between, we've got you covered. Don't forget to check our other articles on EnglishPlusMagazine.com. And now, sit back, relax, and enjoy our latest article.
The Illusion of Perception, exploring the relationship between reality and our senses. Have you ever wondered if the world you see and experience is the same as the world that really exists? Do we perceive the world as it really is, or are our perceptions merely illusions? This is a question that has fascinated philosophers, scientists, and people in general for centuries. In this post, we will explore some of the theories and evidence related to this topic. The first thing we need to understand is that our perception of the world is not a direct representation of the world itself. Rather, our brains construct a representation of the world based on the sensory information that we receive. This sensory information includes things like light, sound, touch, taste, and smell. Our brains then interpret this information and construct a model of the world that we experience. One of the most famous examples of how our perception can differ from reality is the Muller-Lyer illusion. This is a visual illusion in which two lines of the same length appear to be of different lengths due to the addition of arrowheads pointing in opposite directions. Even though we know that the lines are the same length, our brains still perceive one line as being longer than the other. This demonstrates that our perception can be fooled by visual cues and that what we see is not always an accurate representation of reality. Another example of how our perception can differ from reality is the phenomenon of change blindness. This is the tendency for people to miss changes in their visual environment when those changes occur gradually or during a brief interruption. For example, if you were asked to watch a video of people passing a basketball back and forth and asked to count the number of passes, you might completely miss a person dressed in a gorilla suit walking through the scene. This demonstrates that our brains can be so focused on one task that we can miss important details in our environment. So, if our perception is not always accurate, how can we know anything about the world around us? One way that we can gain knowledge about the world is through scientific inquiry. Science is a systematic process of observing, measuring, and testing hypotheses about the world. By using instruments that extend our senses and by developing methods for controlling and manipulating the environment, scientists are able to gather data that can help us understand the world more accurately. For example, consider the field of astronomy. We cannot directly observe stars and planets with our eyes alone, but through the use of telescopes and other instruments, astronomers are able to gather data about the positions, motions, and properties of celestial bodies. This data allows them to develop theories and models that explain the behavior of these objects and the structure of the universe. Another way that we can gain knowledge about the world is through direct experience. We can touch, taste, smell, and hear things directly and use these experiences to inform our understanding of the world. However, even direct experience can be misleading at times. For example, the taste of a food can be influenced by its appearance, texture, and even the expectations of the person eating it. So, while direct experience can be valuable, it is not always a reliable guide to the truth. Despite the limitations of our perception, there are some things that we can be reasonably certain about. For example, we can be reasonably certain that the world is composed of physical objects that obey the laws of physics. We can also be reasonably certain that our experiences are caused by external stimuli rather than being purely mental constructs. One reason we can be reasonably certain about these things is that they are supported by multiple lines of evidence. The laws of physics have been confirmed through countless experiments and observations, and our experiences of the world are consistent with the behavior of physical objects. Additionally, the fact that different people can have similar experiences of the world suggests that our perceptions are not entirely subjective. However, even with the weight of evidence on our side, there are still limitations to what we can know about the world. For example, there are many things that we cannot directly observe, such as the inner workings of the human brain or the nature of dark matter. In these cases, we have to rely on indirect evidence and inference to build our understanding of the world. Moreover, there are limitations to the instruments that we use to observe the world. For example, telescopes are limited by the quality of the optics and the amount of light that they can gather, and microscopes are limited by the resolution of the lenses and the physical properties of the samples being observed. These limitations mean that our observations of the world are never entirely comprehensive or definitive. Another challenge to our perception of the world comes from the fact that our brains are not passive receivers of information. Rather, our brains actively construct our perceptions based on our expectations, beliefs, and prior experiences. This can lead to a phenomenon known as confirmation bias, in which we selectively attend to and remember information that confirms our existing beliefs and ignore or discount information that contradicts them. Confirmation bias can lead us to see patterns or connections that are not actually there, or to interpret ambiguous information in a way that supports our preconceptions. For example, if we have a preconceived notion that people from a certain group are more likely to be dishonest, we might interpret ambiguous behaviors by members of that group as evidence of their dishonesty, while ignoring or downplaying similar behaviors by members of other groups. So, how can we overcome the limitations of our perception and gain a more accurate understanding of the world? One way is to be aware of the limitations of our perception and to actively seek out and consider evidence that contradicts our preconceptions. This can help us to avoid confirmation bias and to develop a more nuanced and accurate understanding of the world. Another way is to seek out multiple perspectives and sources of information. By exposing ourselves to different points of view and interpretations, we can broaden our understanding of the world and avoid getting stuck in narrow, limited views of reality. Additionally, we can use critical thinking skills to evaluate the evidence that we encounter and to identify flaws or biases in our own reasoning. Critical thinking involves questioning assumptions, examining evidence, considering alternative explanations, and evaluating the strength of arguments. By using critical thinking, we can develop a more rigorous and accurate understanding of the world. In conclusion, while our perception of the world is not a direct representation of reality, it is still possible to gain an accurate understanding of the world through scientific inquiry, direct experience, and critical thinking. However, we must be aware of the limitations of our perception and actively work to overcome biases and preconceptions in order to develop a more accurate and nuanced understanding of the world. By doing so, we can expand our knowledge and appreciation of the complexity and beauty of the world around us.
Thank you very much for checking out this article on EnglishPlusMagazine.com. And don't forget to check out our latest English Plus podcast episodes on EnglishPlusPodcast.com. Never stop